What's up, New England and beyond? Cage Titans fans, the Room Podcast fans, NewEnglandMMA.org followers. Welcome to another edition of the Room Podcast this Wednesday night. Tommy Shayhood will not be in the room today, so it'll be just me and Mike Polvere talking about this huge card coming up on May 27th. Mike will be calling in like 3 minutes. He's getting himself situated. And we're going to talk all about this card and any surprises, if the card is complete already, if there's any more announcements coming out. We're going to talk about, Table Titans, things that happen in the back, what's in store for fight night, press conference, weigh-ins, all that good stuff. So, people, this is a huge, huge card. And Mike just keeps announcing fights day by day. Looking on Tapology, they do not have the whole fight card up there yet. They might have it on CageTitansFC.com, but right now, as I'm looking, Tapology doesn't have the whole fight card, so I'm not sure if every poster has been released. But the latest one to be released was the Mitch Raposo against Tyler Smythe, a huge, huge flyweight fight. Those two gentlemen were on. What's up, Cam Arnold? Those two gentlemen were on Table Titans on Monday, and it was pretty exciting. Mitch hasn't been around since as far as on Table Titans or any social media as far as doing interviews since his Ultimate Fighting stint there with Cameron Lashinoff and representing New England there. So it's really cool to see him back in the Cage Titans cage, where he did hold their amateur flyweight title, and Tyler Smythe also holds that title. He did hold that title. Tyler Smythe is now, I do believe, 2-0, and the huge fight. And if you missed Table Titans on Monday, I would say, after the show, go check it out, because those two guys were on, and a couple of other fellas were on, also talking about their fights. So it's pretty cool that all this stuff's going on. So we haven't talked to Mike in some time. I think the last time he was on the podcast, I think it was with Andy. And I'm not sure what card it was. I'm not sure at all. It was definitely like 4 or 5 cards ago. So it's been a while since I actually caught up with Mike. And every time we have Mike on here, the show lasts a long time, because he likes to gab. I like to gab. So I'm going to go to Cage Titans Instagram right now. Actually, I'm not. You know what I'm going to do? I'm going to flash some posters. I'm going to flash the posters that are actually out right now of all the fights that are going on the 27th. So let me get that up right now. So I'll move that over right now, and I'll just let that flash in there so you guys can all check out all the fights that are on tap. Hopefully I don't move anything around here. So, like I said, Tyler Smythe and Mitch Raposo. I have a huge question for Mike as soon as he comes on about that fight, because there was talk of maybe a title. Mitch asked for it to be a title fight, and so did Tyler. So that they put Mike on the spot on Monday, and Mike, he was thinking about it, I guess. And as I always say, Mike always pulls a rabbit out of his hat. So if you don't, we are streaming on YouTube. We are streaming on Facebook. We are streaming on Twitter. We are streaming on Twitch. I think that's the only 4 places we are at this moment. But people, if you want to check us out on all different social media, it's New England MMA or the Room Podcast. We have a couple of pages on Facebook. We have our group page, the New England MMA group page, and then we have our business page. I have the Room Podcast business page, and then we are on Twitch as the Room Podcast, and Twitter as taps you out 911, I do believe, but I have it labeled as the Room Podcast. So follow us everywhere. Follow us on Instagram. Big news put out over the weekend at UFC. Was it UFC 280? What the fuck was it? I forgot what number it was. They fight every week, but the UFC is coming to Boston in August. Not sure the exact date, but New England MMA did put out an article about that, and I would imagine there's going to be a few fighters from the region there fighting on that card. So we have a bunch of cards coming up this month in June. I think Cage Titans is back in July. So there's room for a lot of these fighters if if they have some good fights in the next month and a half, couple of months, they could be on that card. So that is the rumor. The rumor that, or Lars, who wrote the article, said that it was Sean O'Malley and Sterling who are going to be fighting at this event. I think it's UFC 292. That is the number, the official number for the card that will be in Boston in August. But I'm not sure if that's 100% true that Sean O'Malley will be there fighting. I've spoke to a few guys that are big UFC fans, and they said maybe the Garden's not big enough for a pay-per-view of that magnitude, but I think so. I mean, Conor McGregor fought there, but it was when he wasn't, the notorious at this moment. But I do believe that's going to be a huge to do. Dana White will be in town for probably a few days. They'll have press conferences. They'll have a bunch of shit going on there. So I'm excited. Hopefully New England MMA gets one of our guys down there as media. We know we got a few guys working with us now. Dylan Napoleon's doing great work for us. A young stud just came in. He's been with us a few months. He actually goes to Bellator and covers them in California, and he travels, and he's really passionate about it. He's writing a ton of articles, just started his own podcast. So we're waiting for that to explode and people to get on board with that, because Dylan is from Connecticut, and he can have a lot of guys from Connecticut, that area, visit the podcast, because he does have in-studio guests, and the podcast looks great. So congratulations, Dylan Napoleon. Also, Travis Lazat, Lars Borison, Jeff Clark, and our other Boats, Mr. Boats, right there. They're all doing their thing. There's a lot of cards this weekend. We have Cage Titans 73. We have Neff. So I believe Lars and Jeff will be at CES, and I'm not sure if Jeff and Travis will be at Neff, but I will be doing a fight companion for both of those, and good to go. All right, let me see if Mike's ready. I'll get to him and see if he's ready to come on. I don't know if I was supposed to message him or he messaged me, but he was getting his computer ready. So I'm going to see if he's ready right now. And we'll have Mr. Polvere on talking about, yes, he's ready to go, people. So let me give him a call. So Mike Polvere in the house. What's up, Rob Pico, man? I miss you, bro. I miss you. What's up, my man?
Hi, how you doing?
I'm doing good, buddy. I forgot I was going to call you. I was waiting for you to kind of chime in, but you know how it goes. We both have the gift of gab, so we keep going. All right, let me get you on here. Go ahead. What'd you hear?
I heard. I was watching, and I heard you talking about UFC Boston and things like that. It's funny. One thing that stood out that you mentioned, that people are saying that it couldn't host a pay-per-view. What people might not remember, in 2018, the UFC did host a pay-per-view at TD Bank North Garden. It was Miocic for Ngannou. And then the very first UFC Boston card they did back in 2010 was Frankie Edgar and BJ Penn. So by all means, the UFC would a pay per view could come to Boston. I would just be very careful. Obviously it was they mentioned it on the broadcast, but it's not like I see all these fight cards that are coming out, and that people are like throwing these fight cards together, and people are running with those stories. I actually was at the Athletic Commission today, and the UFC has not been in contact to officially book a date with the Athletic Commission. So I can at least give you that update. I'm not saying it's not going to happen, but I'm just, just being realistic. Like the next step would obviously, Dana White's not licensed, the matchmakers aren't licensed, so they'll have to go through that whole process. Clearly, when they want to come to town, the commission's going to do it. But you mentioned Aljo versus Sterling as like the announced headliner. Dana did say, "Oh yeah, we would like to do it." But then you heard Aljo talking about he's waiting until September, and
Yeah.
he doesn't fight often, so it's like the excitement is huge, and we're like throwing all this shit at the wall. It's like, let's stand pat a little bit, and until it comes a little bit more concrete. But we can host a pay per view at UFC Boston, and we would do everything in our power to kind of bring that to Boston.
Yeah, and when my guys, they're guys at work, and they're kind of on the casual level there, and they're like, oh, there's no way they can. I said, no, I think they did have one in the past, and that's the one that you spoke about. And my God, I mean, pay per view in Boston, that just means huge things for our fighters, because as you know, they have a bunch of our guys on the cards, kind of in the preliminaries, and it's just a great time for New England and fighters, and it's a boost. It's a boost to have that. I mean, we get Bellator here every so often, but it's not the UFC, man. So and it's not in Connecticut either. Boston is the place to be for the UFC. They have a few days of events, and there's going to be huge press conferences and great things for fans, fighters, and everyone to get involved and go head down there and do their thing, my guy.
Listen, man, I'm stoked. To see that hopefully this becomes a reality. Once it's announced officially, you see a poster, that's when I'll jack it up the excitement. But obviously it's I would say it's close to a done deal, but again, it just hasn't officially been done. But you bring up some great points. I mean, imagine UFC Boston, another round for Joe Lozon to get in the cage one more time with his illustrious career. You see guys like Don Shanis and Rob Font and Calvin Cater, who are in the top 10 in weight classes. I think Calvin's still recouping from an injury. There's just so many opportunities. How crazy would it be, if you see Peter Barrett initially got signed off the Contender Series, and they specifically said on his signing, there's no way I can't sign this guy because we're coming to Boston in a few months, and he has to be on that card. With his story, then he was injured coming out of that Contender Series, so that never came to fruition. He's stopped 4 or 5 guys since he's been cut from the UFC. He kind of got a short end of the stick because he was in the UFC during COVID when gyms were closed down and all that. So like he's really trying to push for that, and that would be beautiful. I mean, obviously Joe Giannetti, who's been talking about it, and then let's talk about the guys that are fighting in the next couple months, like Kyle Bochniak. If you look back at him, he was kicking around, having a good local run. UFC Boston was in town, and I remember the phone call I got from John Clark. Hey, listen, they need somebody in 4 days. They reached out. Kyle had the good enough record. I think he was undefeated. Can you help us and get medicals within 2 days? If we can take this fight in the UFC. So those type of opportunities will come potentially to some of our locals. And it's great. So yeah, man, it's a good time if this all comes to fruition. And yes, my phone that night I already got text messages. Remember last time UFC in Boston, Cage Titans, I think we got like 4 or 5 big, huge booths, suites. We had over 100 people. So yes, I've already reached out to the Garden. I'm friendly with the guy who's in charge of ticketing, and I said, once this becomes official, we're doing what we did last time. And he said, whatever booths, whatever suites you need. He's been to Cage Titans. He loves MMA. He comes to our restaurant in Quincy. So like we're good friends. So he's like, yep, the minute it's official, you'll be one of the first to know, and we got you on the list. So yeah, we'll be doing all that fun stuff again if they do when they do come to town.
Yeah, and I do believe I attended the last one that you did. Was that the one that Manny Bermudez fought on?
Yep,
Okay,
yep.
that was a great time. You put on a great. I mean, it was a great time having hanging out with the fighters and some of the fans, and it was a good time. I mean, it was like uh, it was private, but not private. There's like a party on the side, but you had your own bar, and then there was after parties after all over Boston. Some of the local fighters had their after parties in some bars, and I was with Don Shanis, hanging out with Don Shanis that night, and we were bouncing from bar to bar, just like meeting up with everyone that was having like an after party or just partying with anyone around because there was so many locals from Cage Titans and other promotions that just like lingering around and rooting on their training partners, man. It was a great time, and I can't wait, man. That'll definitely be my next UFC card that I go to. Not that I go to many, but
Yeah,
definitely Boston. And when you put that on, man, it makes it easier for fans and fighters to get involved and get tickets and be able to hang out with a ton of people that they know.
yeah. So definitely looking forward to that. And again, once everything comes to fruition, it's like Dana mentioned in the fall of last year coming to Encore and doing the show, and it took him till what March to come here after he said he was coming. And everybody was all jacked up about Dana coming last fall/winter, and then he didn't show up to March. So it's just like as excited as I am, it's like all right, cool. When I what makes this one different is that Dana's a promoter, and sometimes you catch him and he'll just talk and he'll be like, "Yeah, we're gonna do this, we're gonna do that, we're gonna do that," and somebody in the back room is probably like, "Oh fuck, why did he say that? Why did he say that? That was just a talk. There were so many more things that have to get done." Because he's not thinking that. He's like, "Oh, I heard us talk about UFC Boston in a meeting. Yep, I'm throwing it out there." The difference maker in this one, which makes it a little bit more real, in my opinion, is they said it on the broadcast, and that stuff isn't being told to the commentators unless the producer has gotten that green lit to talk about in a broadcast. I think it's the fact that it came out in a broadcast, though they didn't have a graphic or anything like that. The fact that it was said makes it a little bit more real than a post-fight press conference where Jane is like, "Yeah, I'd love to go back home to Boston. I got it targeted for this year." This made it a little bit more real when Anik said it.
Excellent. Well, before we move on to your exciting card coming up in a couple of weeks, Rob Pico asked a question. It might be a little too early to tell because we have a bunch of cards up until that August date, but he's asking if you had to pick four guys. You already mentioned a couple, but if Joe Lozon is fighting, he'll be on, I would imagine, the pay-per-view card. But he's asking if you had four local guys to pick to be on that card right now. I don't know if he's talking, Don Shanis. Who would you think would be on the undercard if you had to pick right now for fighters to go there from, the region?
I will not. I'm sorry, Rob Pico. I will not make that call because. Well, hold on. Actually, if you're just talking about fighters that are already in the UFC, I don't want to ever like say like, "Oh yeah, I think this guy that's fighting at Cage Titans in 2 weeks is going to be on that UFC Boston." So I guess right out the gate, Lozon, Don Shanis, who's in the UFC. Those would be two great guys that would get in there on the card. Rob Font, there's a lot of great fights for Rob Font. And I think Rob Font's an incredible fighter. He had his amateur career with us. He fought pro for us. Like, I'd love to see him get to fight in Boston. A fight like Sandhagen would be an amazing fight for him. That would be a great fight. Upper echelon fight card on a pay-per-view. There's three. I know Calvin's hurt. Nick Fiore's fighting coming up, so he's probably not a New England guy that's going to get on there.
What about you mentioned Peter Barrett? He can get a call up. Like you said,
Yeah,
he's got.
but I'm not going to pick anybody that's.
Oh, that's right. That's right. I'm so sorry. I'm sorry. Well,
some fighter will be like, you should have said me.
Hey, if I had to pick two guys to be on it, I would say that are not signed. I would say Joe Giannetti and Peter Barrett. I mean, late notice or not, or imagine if they, fought each other. You know what I mean? I mean that would blow up Boston, wouldn't it? Would it not?
It would be a fun fight. I mean, in the hypothetical world, I think that as much as those are dream fights for us here in New England, I hate. Oh, I don't want to be the Debbie Downer, but like at the same time, like the UFC throws their name on the TD Bank North and they're coming to Boston. Like I know a lot of fighters like I sell a shitload of tickets. I'm going to sell it out. Guess what? The UFC is going to sell out anyways. If they didn't have a single New England fighter, it's much different than the local scene. Where the local scene is like if you sell a shit ton of tickets, we'll throw you on Plymouth Memorial Hall and you're going to sell 200 tickets. That's a huge thing. But you go to the UFC and it's like, all right, I'll sell 200 tickets. They're like, we're going to sell 18,000 tickets, whether you're on it or not.
Yeah.
Like that 200, we're going to sell no matter what. So those dream matchups that we say, like New England versus New England, I don't think you'll see that as much on a card like that. And with that being said, some people are like, everybody on the fight card has to be some sort of New England fighter. And I saw fight cards that was like every single opponent was a New England guy. And it's like, they're also not going to do 12 fights with all 12 New England. They can get the New England feel with 2 or 3 New England guys, and that's enough for them. So it's fun to like, shoot the shit about and go, but it's like, let's just be realistic as well. Like, but my fourth guy, I guess I said, because I didn't pick a fourth guy yet. Man, who else locally is in the UFC right now? Parker Porter, he just fought. I guess the timeline would line up.
Yeah, he demolished that guy, and he looked unscathed coming out of there, excited to get back in there. So that would be huge.
That could be big. He's a New England guy. So yeah, I guess Parker, Sheamus clearly.
Yeah.
Font and who was the other guy I said? I heard.
Lozon.
Who?
You said Lozon too. So Lozon.
Oh yeah, Lozon.
So and those two guys are. I mean, definitely. We don't know Calvin's timeline, but Font is going to be one of the top fights on the pay-per-view. Lozon.
Time frame lines up.
What's that?
Time frame lines up for Font to be back. I forgot the other guy. Charles Rosa.
Yep.
Who's in the UFC. Sometimes we don't think of him as a New England guy. Maybe, I don't know. Obviously, his nickname's Boston Strong. He's a Boston guy, though he lives in Florida. He would be another fun one. When he came out in the Boston jersey when he fought last time, I mean, people were going nuts for him. So he'd be another cool guy. Imagine if we dragged Glover Teixeira out of retirement. Obviously he's from Brazil, but he's from nearby Connecticut. That'd be kind of cool. Man, there's a lot of fun.
There's a lot to talk about, and what it really does is it lights a fire under all of these fighters' asses that are going to be fighting. It's like, if I have a great win, who knows? I could be there. I mean, there's some fighters that are on the cusp of making it to the UFC. There's already some that are going to be on the Dana White's contender series that haven't been announced, but we already know in the back of our minds there's a few of our fighters going to be on there. So there's a lot to fight for coming up in the next few months, man. So excitement.
Well, I mean, not only UFC Boston, like as exciting as that is, also the contender series is going to be coming up right around that same time. So you got guys that know that they're maybe 1 or 2 fights away from putting themselves in a position for the contender series. So even if they don't get on a UFC Boston card, it's a very strong possibility that you could be looking at a contender series, shot towards the end of the summer, which is right around the same time. Last year, they did the end of July in August or August and September. So it's probably right around that same time. So you can all vie for that UFC Boston, but you could also be vying just for great performance over the next few months and put yourself in a situation where you could be on a contender series. They obviously just wrapped up and they're premiering The Ultimate Fighter as well at the end of this month. So it's not that far-fetched to think that another season of Ultimate Fighter will be starting to do tryouts and casting in the next few months. So, man, it's a good time. And we have so many guys, not only guys that are there, but on the cusp that could be there, and the segue into the Cage Titans card. And, you got guys that, right there, a win could put them and catapult them into this situation where they could be on an Ultimate Fighter. They could be on the contender. They could be on, Dana White's contender series. Like, you look at our main event, Ross Hilton and Brandon Battles. Like, tell me one win for Brandon Battles and in its dominating fashion that he could be in the UFC. Ross Hilton. You look at D. Sabatino, who's 11-2. he picks up a big win over such a scrappy and tough veteran in Jacob Bone, he could be right
Yeah.
there. But then it's like, that's not to disrespect the Bone to say that Zach could be there. Because guess what? Bone was just in this situation when he fought 9-2 Ali Zabian. And he quickly snatched that away,
Yep.
snatched that neck, and put that hype train to rest. Then you got Mitch Raposo coming back. But tell me if, Mitch wins, he goes 8-1, and now he's in line. But tell me if Tyler Smythe doesn't win and get that finish over a guy who's been on Contender, been on the Ultimate Fighter. Now he sits at 3-0, and he's like, you know what? I get one more win over the summer.
Yep.
I'm 4-0, 5-0 maybe. I'm on the Contender Series in the fall.
Definitely.
And he's right in line. Normally a 2-0 guy, you might not be talking about that.
Yeah.
But he's going to project himself with this type of fight. You look at guys like Valdino, who could be going 4-0. Has a tough fight against Will Smith. But him, there's just so much at play. And it's a good time. And these guys are taking tough fights right now. And they're not protecting themselves. They're not protecting their record, which was a common trend that we've seen for many, cards in many years. Like, they're protecting their records at the right time, but now they're finally stepping up when the time is right to take the tough fights and test themselves. Look at Mo Kanani, who was, 4-1 at the time or 5-1, and people are like, dude, that's way too much of a step up against Peter Barrett, who's been in the UFC. He's been fighting since 2011. And he showed, yes, he lost, but he showed his star rose that night.
Yeah.
And he's right there himself. And he's going to come back better than ever. And now he's 2 or 3 fights. We've seen him against the next level of competition. He hung in there. 2 or 3 more fights back, and he's right back to the top of the pile. And maybe even one more fight, he's back to the top of the pile. So good time to be alive here in New England.
Well, Mike, you had Table Titans on Monday. Huge announcement with Mitch Raposo, where you spoke of coming back. Fighting Tyler. Tyler needed an opponent, and Mitch jumped in there. There was chatter going on there. It blew up. I mean, Mitch is back. Big following. They did both mention, I'm going to put you on the spot right here. They did both mention, I wish it was a title fight. I wish it was and then you got red in the face, and Mike always pulls a rabbit out of his hat and stuff like that. Is that something that, could happen, or it's too late to actually make it a 5-rounder at this point?
Just for the record, my face is red because I've been walking out in the sun. I actually bought a bike. I've been biking, so my head and my face is red. So it's just red in general right now. You know what? They did put me on the spot, and I'm not. Mitch did talk about trying to get champ status because he is the CES champ. And by all intent, all purposes, there's no reason why Mitch could not be fighting for a title. I didn't present it as a title for the pure fact that at 2-0, though Tyler Smythe is probably the next best guy if you were doing rankings. I think maybe, what's he, 4 in your rankings?
I'm not sure at this point.
Yeah,
it's been a little while.
He's right in the top 5. Though it's like, somebody asked me the other day, and I kind of gave my opinion, and that they're like, well, take your opinion out of it. And I'm like, well, okay, if Tyler wants to fight for a title, I'd let him. But realistically, if Mitch wins the title, he's probably gone. And does he really need the title to move on? No, a win here, and he's already been told if he gets a finish and he gets a win, he's going to move on. So does he need this to be a belt fight? Probably not, because he's going on no matter what. Smythe, would it be cool to have a title in the pro ranks? Absolutely. But now at 3-0, if he wins, now he's a title holder. The rest of his local career, he's stuck fighting title fights every time. Now, people are like, oh, he's stuck fighting title fights. What do you want to try to give him easier fights? It's not that. It's just the pure fact is if he fights 3 more times locally and he's fighting 5 rounds on all of them, that's 15 rounds of fighting.
Yeah.
If he was just fighting 3-rounders, that's 5 more fights he could be having with and people say leaving rounds in the gym, which means basically don't leave rounds in the gym. Don't spar and batter your brain in the gym. Save those on competition days. It's like, does Tyler Smythe need to be losing rounds to the local scene and being fighting 5-rounders for the rest of his local career? And then also it makes it even more difficult to get him fights. Now everybody that's fighting him has to agree that they want to be fighting for a title fight. So I don't think necessarily it complicates too much for Mitch to fight for a title and win a title because he's probably moving on no matter which way it goes. I think my hesitancy is the hindrance it could potentially put on Tyler if he wins. With that being said, I did tell Tyler's coach, I said, that's my feeling. It's totally on you guys. What you prefer to do, you guys talk about it. Mitch, I know the answer is yes. I said to his coach, I said, listen, it's up to you guys. I'd be happy to put a title belt around either one of their waists. But think about the long term. With Cage Titans, I don't try to look right here what's in front of me. I'm trying to look 3, 4, 5 steps down the line. I do that in every aspect of our business. It would be fun. But I just think there's some more complications that if we just in the moment on emotion, like, yeah, fuck it, throw a title on the line. It's like, okay, well, did you think this out? And, I've had guys, I've done, I think I did a 3-round title fight with Andy Aiello way back in the day against Ramo Cottarelli at flyweight, coincidentally. And Lozon's like, we'll do a title, but it's only 3 rounds. Like, I'm not having my guys fight 5 rounds on the local scene for local money. There was some backlash of Bilal Mahal and Gilbert Burns. If you watch Chael Sonnen and all, he's like, why the fuck would you guys agree to 5 rounds? Like, that's reserved for title fights. And like, he was saying, like, why are you wasting rounds fighting in a co-main event for 5 rounds? Save those for the main event when you're fighting for a title. You're wasting rounds in the longevity of your career. And that's where my mindset is a little bit. If it was a robust division as well, that might also come into play. Like, if I knew I had 2 or 3 challengers that I could immediately, like, if one of these guys wins, I got the next guy in line and I could start rotating title fights, like I've done at 35 with the party, in other divisions, it might be a little different story. It's I don't know. Like,
yeah, I totally get it as you said it now because, say Tyler does come away with it. What, he's 3-0. There's not much in the region as far as around here to challenge him unless it's other guys that are maybe 2-0 and have about the same records. You're going to be fighting titles with guys that really don't have a ton of experience. You'd have to, basically maybe fly someone in or get someone in from out of New England with, a bunch of fights to fight him, So I totally get it. And, and then wasted rounds, just like, getting ready for a 5-round fight is totally different than getting ready for a 3-round fight. Like you said, you're wasting rounds in the gym. You got to make sure your cardio and everything's ready in case you go for them 5 rounds. And yeah, it's a lot on a new prospect like that. So yeah,
out the gate. Yeah. And then I look back. I remember this. Back in the day, Frank Sforza, and I remember CFX. They had him fighting for a title. I think he was 1-0 or 2-0, and they're like. And the argument was, well, like, he's going to beat this guy. I think he fought Bill Jones. And then I'm like, I remember being in the gym training with him. I'm like, okay, cool. Then what? He's like, well, if I can beat him, I deserve the belt. And I'm like, okay, cool. Then what? And he's like, well, what do you mean? I'm like, now you're 2-0 and you're a champion. Who the fuck's going to fight you next? Where are you going to get these fights? You're stuck fighting for titles. So I remember, like, this is maybe kind of like, and again, when I was discussing this with a friend of mine, they're like, take your background out of the equation. If they both want it, give it to them. I'm like, yes. But at Cage Titans, I'm a little different. Like, I try to do what's best for the sport, the fighters, and look out for them to some extent. And I don't know. No, somebody's probably watching me right now and like, shut the fuck up.
Mitch is like,
and who knows?
I totally get it, man. It makes total sense, man. Fans, they don't see it that way. They see gold and, the followers of Mitch, and it just blew up. It was a really cool thing when they both going at it. And like, I want to tell you, I'll go. It was great to see. It's a great fight. Good for both of those guys for taking it. I did mention, I don't want to stay on this, but Mitch was saying that he has all to lose here because he's fighting a 2-0 guy, and Tyler, if he performs well but still loses, he really doesn't lose that much stock because he fought a stud in Mitch who's been basically everywhere. The only person Mitch lost to was basically a dude that's 2-0 in the UFC now and was a number 1 ranked in New England, in England or wherever. You know what I mean? So he didn't lose against no bum. He lost against a legitimate contender coming, in a couple of years.
Yeah. It's there's something to be said, and I'm not saying the book's closed, that it's not a title fight. I also think that you know right, there's a lot of factors, and I actually talked to Nate Libby yesterday. I haven't even approached because like the other thing that we have to remember is that like Mitch and Tyler are managed by their coach. Like Tyson manages is Mitch, and Nate Libby manages Smythe. And it's like cool. We can say all we want. We all know this. We can say what we want on a podcast, but then the approval still has to come from a coach or your manager. And it's like it sounds good, but again, without talking to Tyson might say the same thing I'm saying. Go, I'm not going to have Mitch run out there for 5 rounds and for local money. It's not worth it to us. My last point on this is this: whether or not one of these guys has the belt, the Cage Titans belt around their waist, and maybe I'm doing a bad job of being a promoter, but they're a badass and they're the next best thing at flyweight. Whoever wins this fight, with or without my title, if they really wanted a belt, I've said this to guys before, like Manny Bermudez, he was infamous, like famous. Like I said, you want a title? He's like, dude, I know I'm the best in New England. I'm going to the UFC. No offense, Mike, your belt is not my end goal. I don't need that to prove to the UFC that I belong there. I'm just going to keep racking up wins and finish them. I honestly think like, yeah, the gold is cool, but it's a $700 belt. If you really wanted that bad, I'll buy you one and give it to you. But if Mitch wins this, he cements himself as the best flyweight, and he's going to the UFC. If Tyler wins this, he cements himself as the best flyweight, and he still will probably need one or two more fights to get a high enough record to get recognized to get into the UFC, or just probably a contender series fight.
And
The
that,
belt means nothing.
and as we know, Tyler's not afraid to travel. I mean, if he has to get them fights under his belt before the contender series starts off, I mean, he'll go. He'll fight back-to-back cards. He'll fight everywhere just to get them fights under his belt, and he'll fight anyone, as we know. So kudos to both of those guys. It's great to see Mitch back in the Cage Titans cage. But Mike, let's move on, man. Before I
I
started,
gotta say this one quick thing
all
on
right.
this. I gotta ask your opinion. How amazing we were and excited we were for Jeff Joy. And I keep saying this about this fight. The minute you hear Jeff Joy pull out, your immediate mindset goes to, shit, man, I hope Tyler still gets a replacement opponent. It's probably not going to be nearly as good as the Jeff Joy fight, but as long as he gets to fight, that's all we care about. And then out of nowhere, Mitch Raposo swoops in, and this fight is actually probably bigger than the fight that was originally booked, which is unheard of. You don't hear that. It's like, oh yeah, this guy's not fighting. Yeah, we drug somebody up. Who cares about his name? At least the kid still gets to fight, and that's all anybody cares about. They didn't waste a training camp. This is kind of a step up, and it's kind of unheard of. When I pitch a replacement 3 weeks out or 2 weeks out, it's usually like, all right, cool, you were fighting a guy up here. I'm not going to give you a guy up here for your replacement. Yeah. I know I got to go equal or lesser with a replacement because now it's last minute, and they got to have fight. So like, it's very rare we go from like here to all the way up here, which we did in this fight. So hats off to both guys because you're 100% right. Mitch has a ton to lose in this, and potentially not a lot to gain because if he loses, people are gonna be like, wow, you lost to a 2-1, a 3-0 guy. And hats off to Tyler Smythe because he could have said, listen, get me somebody else, get me an easier fight, let me get my records because the truth is, like just like Bo Nickel. When he was on the contender series, like, cool, you're 2-0 and you're a fucking stud. We're not signing you to the UFC. You needed a couple more fights, and they had to bring him back to contender. So even if Smythe wins, he's 3-0. They'd probably still be like, I need to see a few more fights out of this kid. So hats off to both guys. Enough about them.
All right. So Mike, before you came on, I spoke about posters are out. You just announced the Raposo fight last week. Is there any other announcements coming out, or is the card pretty much set right now?
Yeah, the card is pretty much set. I mean, we got 16 fights. It's our entire website is up to date, is accurate. It's in order. Yeah, we're sitting. I hate to say we're sitting pretty, but we're sitting pretty. Like we're in fight month. These fights have all kind of been. This card has been intact for the last few weeks. Which has given us time to promote it, to sell tickets. Which, disclaimer, hit up your favorite fighter, because right now all tickets are sold out online. The only way to get tickets right now is through your favorite fighter. And there's still some tickets floating around with the fighters, but that's it. So don't wait another week. Don't wait till fight week. Like, get your tickets now, because it's going to be sold out. Like this fight with Mitch Raposo and Tyler Smythe, Mitch is like, I need 100 and something tickets. I'm like, I got 60. He's like, I need more. And I'm like, all right, let me see where I get more from. Marty Davis hits me up and he's like, I can't give you any more. I need more. And I'm like, okay. I got Greg Jones and Johnny Cupcakes. They're like, we don't even have tickets to sell. Can you get some? I'm like, I had to give them to the fighters first, and now they have them all, and I have none left. So, I mean, I'm not giving you promoter bullshit. Like, get your tickets soon. Usually people can wait till the last minute, the fight week or something, and not have it sold out by then. This you might see next week no tickets at all, like not even with the fighters. So get your tickets. It's a huge card, and it's a huge card from a perspective of every fight on that card. You hear in the WWE like squash matches. There's no real squash. There's no squash matches on this. Like, these are all fights that if you go down the list, you're like, I can see this guy winning. Ooh, I can see this guy winning. I can see this guy. And I think that New England is reacting to that, snatching those tickets. They know these fighters are testing themselves, on this card, and they're really responding with wanting to be there.
Well, my man, stacked card, as you said. Hilton battles for the heavyweight title. That's going to be huge. Two guys that just go in there demolish. They don't go the distance in fights. Ras Hilton, I believe this is going to be his first appearance for Cage Titans. Most of his has been NEF or Bellator, or maybe somewhere CES. But how excited are you get him in there? I mean, he towers over the cage. I don't know how these guys are going to touch gloves from each corner because they're so big, man. How are you going to contain them from dropping the cage onto the crowd, when they're fighting against it if they have to?
Man, I mean, I'm excited for Ross, because I've said it long and long ago. Like, if I see somebody predominantly fight for another promotion, it's just me. I try to respect that, and I never reach out to fighters. And I know what people say. They do it to us every day. Our, Cage Titans guys are getting an inbox from other promoters. They're literally getting messages the night of fights. It's just something I don't do. So when Ross's coach, friend, manager kind of took over and hit me up at the beginning of the year, I was like, oh, dude, I'm so glad you hit me up. Like, I've been a fan of this guy. And, like, let's see what we can do. When we put this fight together and we brought him in the cage in January, I remember my first meeting with Ross. Ross was like, I never heard from you. Like, I didn't know if you ever want me to fight for you. And I'm like, same thing with Pat Casey. It's like, dude, I've been a fan for a long time. The fact that I don't reach out does not mean I'm not a fan. It's just, that's just who I am. When Pat Casey was fighting out in Western Mass at Premiere and all those shows, it's like, you know what? He's one of their guys. I'm not going to mess with that. I would not want to be meddling, because I know he's probably making more money, selling more tickets, doing all that stuff out there. So I just don't mess with that. So I was stoked when Ross signed up to fight Battles. And, I remember when this fight was being made, because Battles told me, get me anybody. I'm not going to go to the UFC and then find out that I don't have what it takes. I want the hardest fight you can get me on the local level, which was a breath of fresh air. It's like, all right, cool. I can get anybody. He's like, anybody. All right, cool. So I knew he was going to take it. So I mentioned Ross, and he goes, I'm in. But he goes, we've trained a few times. You sure he's going to take it? And I was like, I was told by his manager, his new manager, and they put me on the same thread. So it was me, Ross, and his manager. So Ross saw the offer, the proposal, and he's in. He's like, I don't think he's going to take it. I'm like, he's in, I'm telling you. And his manager told me, he's like, Ross wants to fight the best. He wants big fights, and he doesn't care who it is. And this fight came together. We announced it in January. Here it is. We've never announced a fight 2 shows in advance. But we have, a great fight, and I'm excited for it.
Excellent. Well, before we move on, going back to the last card, Mike, how much of a relief is it to have just one card and not have to do a doubleheader? Even though I know you're a workaholic and you love it, and I mean you got a ton of fighters in there and got them work and stuff, but how much of is it of a relief to be able to focus on one card, the main card, and everything involved in that?
I almost split this card in two.
Yeah, did you?
um, because I'm just a glut. I actually was thinking about doing Friday and Saturday. But honestly, like it is easier. There is definitely I don't know, man. I relish in the stress and high stress environment. Like I want all the pressure. Like I'm the guy that wants the ball at the end of the game, and like that's just who I am. So I rise to that occasion. So like, yeah, I mean, I don't know. It's a little less stressful, but I mean, sometimes it's like seems a little too. I thrive in the chaos. So now that like everything's kind of smooth, I'm like I kind of like when it was kind
Yeah,
of
you need
chaotic. And
more.
like
You're bored right now. You must be bored right now. You need more stuff going on.
yeah, it's just like I need something, but I mean, I'm enjoying it. What I'm really enjoying now after 13 years is like we mentioned how Ross was in battles was announced 2 shows ago. We're finally getting to the point where like we're not just having an event on May 27th and then like May 28th. It's like, all right, cool. What are we going to do on July 22nd? I got fights booked already for July 22nd right now. That we'll announce ahead of time. So like, for me, so like I'm kind of like I say it to Andy and a couple of the close guys like Phil and the people part of my team. It's like, how come we've been doing this for 12 years, 13 years, and we still seem like we're trying to figure it out? And every show is chaotic. And then something clicked a couple of shows ago, and it's like, you know what? Like, let's get this down. And now we're starting to book 2 shows in advance. We have all the dates for the rest of the year. We already have fights scheduled for July. We already have fights targeted for September. Like we're kind of getting ahead of the game right now, which is nice, which makes it a little easier. We'll have the poster to drop before May 27th for the July. Like we're really kind of getting well oiled finally in our 13 years and 60 whatever events we've done.
Well, definitely not only a great card, and you don't want to say it, but probably the best card you've had to date. But not only the card and the fights and the matchups you have, the production value that you do every show and add. It looks like it's firing on all cylinders right now. As far as what you've added, as far as the lighting system, the cameras, spectation, sports, everything. You got Maddie Levine doing pre-interviews as the fighters are coming down. I mean, the production level is through the roof now. My God. How satisfied are you with that? Or are there other little tweaks, other little surprises that you still in your mind I got to add here? What's going on with that side of the coin?
Yeah, man, it's definitely like it seems like we're firing on all cylinders, but I say this in life and in business and everything you do. Just because you did something that was successful a year ago, 6 months ago, 3 months ago, 3 minutes ago, 1 minute ago, the next time you do it, just because it was successful that last time you did it, does not mean you should not look to improve something the next time you do it. So, as excited and as happy as I am with where we are at Cage Titans, there's always something that I'm going to be looking to improve. You mentioned the lights, the lighting rig, the tower. Maddie Levine was our ad last show. She'll be back this show. Video packages would probably be something that I would like to do. I would love to be able to get some crowd interaction. Like when you go to a big sporting event where they have the kiss cam and in between like breaks, they got people like doing dance offs and crazy shit like that. I would love to get involved in that to make it a little more fan interactive experience. That's something that could be down the pipeline. I'd love to get into what you used to do for us when we used to do the pre-show. And I want to move, we used to do the pre-show from the stage. I want to move that pre-show to the front of the building outside, kind of like college game day, where like all the fans are lining up and you guys are sitting there doing your breakdown and the fans are holding their signs behind you
I'm
and
in.
you're seeing the crowd, you know? So I want
Definitely.
to get into that. There's man, there's that's kind of some of the things that I would like to now stop moving into. New cameras or something. Some Ultra HD cameras is something that I'm going to be looking to invest in this year. That's our next big purchase. But when you look at it, like our fights are kind of as good as they're going to get. There's not much improvement we can do on some of those fights. The live experience is something that's just second to none in that venue. you know, little tweaks are, along the way is something that I'm going to be looking to do. Um, yeah, we're always looking to improve, man. And I'm always open for ideas. Like, we added this year for the first time, we added the VIP stage box, like kind of like an owner suite, like you have at, games where you want a suite. So we have those up. We added the hall pass this year, which, one of the complaints is that line is down the damn street. If you ever want to get in, we only limited it to 100 people. You can buy a hall pass and you skip the line. And it's not all the people. It's only 100. So like it's very limited. But for $10, you get to skip to the front of the line. You get to get in the venue first, and you get to pick your seats. So that's another big perk. So a lot of people told me I'm crazy for only doing it for $10, but it was a cool new ad for this year. Because it just gets you in and it gets you. It's just another little added piece that we can do. We added a new brewery, so we have two Cage Titans beers. We have the IPA from Second Wind. We have the lightweight lager by 42nd Parallel. This year, I'm looking to add a seltzer, a Cage Titan seltzer,
Ooh.
which would be cool. So man, there's just constantly things floating in my head that I'm like, I want to do that. I want to do that. Every time I watch a sporting event, whether it's MMA or not, I'm looking and being like, I'd like to add that. I can see myself doing that at Cage Titans. Oh yeah, we should be doing that. Oh yeah, we can do that. I don't even really watch sports for entertainment. It's always for ideas.
Excellent, my man. And you have a ton of them, my man. The product looks great. The social media through the roof. Mitch hasn't been around, but he mentioned that on Table Titans, how great you guys are at supporting the fighters and just putting out content on content. Is that all Nick? Or has Nick got a crew behind him, or is it Nick behind the computer doing most of that stuff? Like, how much of a crew do you have? Like, because you guys are, you're on all social media. You're constantly putting cool shit out there, like little memes in
Listen,
between shit. It's nonstop.
I'll tell you this: the most important thing for me is passion about the sport, and um, I don't care if you're the best at whatever field you're in. Like, let's say you're the best photographer. I don't care about that. Are you passionate about MMA? And I think, you mentioned Nick, and this is where I'm going with it, is like, Nick's a one man show. Like, I do all the still graphics. So I do all the poster designs, the face off. So I do the theming but he's doing all the reels and he's doing all the stories and stuff like that. He's a one man show. I'm a one man show in many aspects. Like a lot of us are just so damn passionate. We can't like you're like you must be doing the job of four guys. It's like, yeah, I guess I
Yeah.
am, but I don't think about it because I love this so much. I'm not thinking of it as work. Like in Nick's the same way. If he was on right now, it's like, man, what do you got a staff of like 6 for your social media team? What do you got like one that does TikTok and Twitter and one that does Instagram and Facebook and one that does your YouTube? It's like, no, it's one person. He works the 4 people because he doesn't think of it as work. He loves it. When you're sitting home tonight, maybe watching whatever friggin' new shows on Netflix, he's there just watching Cage Titan stuff and
Yeah.
MMA stuff, and he's so passionate about that. Same with myself, like and Andy and Phil, who does our light and sound. Like he's constantly like, "Hey, I just saw this light show here. What do you think of this?" And I'm like, "He's like, think we can do it?" I'm like, "Yeah, let's fucking go."
Excellent.
Joe Leonard, he's constantly trying to tweak things. So it's just we're just so passionate about it. We do actually have a small crew. Like I one thing that when I have fighters come to me from other promotions, they're like, "Well, who does this?" And I'm like, "Oh yeah, that's me." Who does that? Oh yeah, that's me. Oh, who does that? Like, well, where's the crew? It's like these 5 people are the crew. You know what I mean? It's like it's me, Nick, Richie, and Lilla, and Andy, and Phil, and Joe Leonard. Like that's our inner core. And we obviously have like Adam Russell who does our DJ and
Yep.
music, and there's it's not like, hey, go see that person. It's like no, like we're hands on in everything we do, and it's just the passion that we have. Like you do your own podcast, and for what you do for your podcast, you could probably get 3 or 4 people to do like from all your pre-work on getting videos and photos for when you have a guest on. The camera switching, the angles, and the sound tech, and all the things you could probably have to produce your podcast. You do it yourself.
Yeah.
because you're so passionate about it.
I
You
need a
do the
I
job.
need a
You
Joe
do it
Leonard
good.
in I need a Joe Leonard in the corner here because I actually I have cameras in here. I just can't touch them. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? It's so it's fun. I love it, and it's like it's looking at the finished product and knowing that, man, I did that, and it just makes you want to work harder and elevate and stuff. Like Nick, you said he sits home and he watches stuff, and he sees the finished product and he sees the feedback from it, and it just makes you want to work that much harder. It's not about money getting paid or anything. It's about you're creating art, and people are loving it, and it just drives you to keep getting that love, man. And it's great stuff.
And that's the beauty of everything. Everybody that's part of Cage Science in our community, like we all are super passionate and care about what we do, and that's our driving force. That is the number one driving force for all of us. And then it's expression. Like you're right. Like you get to see this finished product, and you're like, wow, I did this, or we did this, or I had this little part in making this beautiful masterpiece. Um, you know, that's something that people say to me, Mike, you run around the entire fight, you never stand still, you this, that, and the other thing. If you came to me and said, hey, listen, I'm going to get you a couple employees so you can just sit front row and watch the fights, I would never do that. Back in the day, GFL offered me a franchise opportunity when I first started Cage Science. They sat me down, they were trying to wine and dine me, and they're like, you'll be like Dana White. You'll just walk in middle of the card, and they'll all look. Hey, the camera will pan to you, the Cage Titans owner, and you just sit down and just enjoy yourself. We'll do the matchmaking. We'll do the setup. We'll do this. We'll do that. And I'm like, yeah, that's not me, man. That might be somebody else, but that's not me. Like part of why I'm passionate and I care about this is at the end of the night when we're sitting there, we're like, wow, we did this, guys. And it's the most beautiful feeling in the world.
Excellent, my man. Well, let's get to a couple more things about this card. I could talk to you all night, but I'm not going to talk to
Same.
you all night. But Mike, I know you got in the works press conferences and stuff like that. What do you any different plan on that? The weather might be nice outside. Like, what are you thinking about the press conference heading forward as far as this card?
Dude, I would love to do an outdoor press conference. We did an outdoor press conference. I'm not sure if you were involved in it. Maybe back in the day, maybe.
Yeah, right in front of the Memorial Hall. I think I was.
Um, yeah, I'm not going to say no that we wouldn't do an outdoor press conference again. The wind, the microphones, it was a
The
little
church
difficult.
the church across the street with the bell. Remember that was going
Yeah, the
on.
church. There were so many things that were difficult about doing outdoor. So I'm not sure if we would do outdoor again, but I'm not going to say no. I would love to do in front of the waterfront because I think that would be amazing. That was something I've had like kind of in the bucket list. But how to get internet out there was something that's yeah. The press conference, my thoughts again. I loved Proof 22. A lot of people thought that was a great venue that we did last time. We had the big TV screens behind us, had the logos and all that stuff. It was very cool. That's a beautiful place. We might do it there. You know, I'm not sure. I can tell you this. I'm probably targeting Ross and Battles, Bone and DSAB, Trevor and Trevor and Jack Congdon, Pat Casey and Marty Navis, and then obviously Mitch and Smythe would probably be the five. But then it's just like that's five fights that we're having. That's a lot of guys, And you know me, I won't do it unless I can get both guys there. So
Yeah.
yeah, press conference will be Thursday. To be determined where it's going to be. I'd love to have you. I remember you moderated one of a couple of them back in the day. So like,
I was I was hiding under the table for the Joe Pennefield and the Richie one. Right? That was like
we have a picture of you and I think you and Brad Jensen.
I was asking questions from underneath the table. It was a little hostile that day, but it's always good, man. It's great. The fighters love it. They get to say what they want to say there, and you put on a great production there too, man. Everywhere you guys go, weigh-ins, the press conference, the fight night, pre-fight, everything is top notch, man. Congratulations on all that.
Yeah, it's something that we talked about a little earlier. Like, we're homegrown in everything we do. Like, we're taking people that are just passionate about the sport that have like maybe they might have a limited background in the area that we're trying to use them for, but it's just like I can go hire the best production company in the world. I can go give them money and they're going to take it as a job and they're going to take the money and they're going to do an amazing job. But like I want people that care about the sport first, and maybe I might have a little bit less of like a quality, but we're going to grow and we're doing it organically together. And I think that also might translate over to the community as well that we're a part of. Like they've watched us grow. You know, we watched the first Table Titans episode from 2016 the other day, and then to see like where we've been in 7 years, like you guys are along for the journey and you're all a part of it. And I think that's an important message that I tell the fighters. Like your friends and family, like don't just whore yourself out and say buy tickets, buy tickets, buy tickets. That's how I get paid. Invite them on the journey. Let them witness it. Let them see you broken down in the gym, pouring sweat, you know, bleeding or whatever after a long, hard session. Show them that, you know, so then like as you get closer to the fight, they get to feel that accomplishment with you on fight night, and they're there right there with you. And I think that's what we do at Cage Titans as a whole. Not only the fighters that we try to instill that in as us as a product. Like you're with us on this journey. Like the countdown to May 27th is on, and you're all in on that countdown. You know, with us, whether it's the videos that are dropping, the posters, the Table Titans episodes with people going back and forth, whether it's the press conference, you know, the weigh-ins, the pre-fight parties, the after parties, the next day brunches. Like you're a part of this whole journey. It's not just like you're an outsider looking in. You're part of this, and that would be a big message I would tell any fighter, whoever you fight for. Invite your friends and family on this journey. Give them that inside look, because this is something that many of them will never do in their lives. And to get that like true connection with them, they want to be part of that journey. And so many fighters like, I'm not going to post. No one cares. It's like, yeah, they do. Trust me. You're doing something pretty badass. Trust me. Bring them in, you know, and let them be a part of this.
Excellent. Well, a couple more things, and I'll let you give your last words on this event on the 27th. But Mike, I have to say another great thing that you added: Spectation Sports. I've been doing fight companions from here, and we're going through them and their graphics, their breakdowns, the stuff that they've just added. They have odds going on. I think you can actually, do fun betting with them. But I was ranting and raving about it, and I mean, they're going to tweak little things here and there as they go, but my God, the production level of that and just their graphics and the information they give you while you're watching the stream is fucking incredible. Do you have anything to do with that, giving them ideas, or is that all that a whole separate crew that kind of does their own thing?
Well, fun fact, all those graphics we create here at Cage Titans.
Of course.
I created the graphic package that we use, from scratch, and we're always looking to tweak it. Spectation Sports was started by a guy who used to work at Flow Combat that we used to work with at Flow Combat, and the head owner works for the NFL Network, so he has a ton of great ideas for the NFL Network. This was a brainchild that came to after COVID, when all these betting platforms were looking for sports to bet on, because that's huge revenue. They needed sports to happen so they can get their revenue flowing with people betting. This came and they were like, well, MMA is one of the first sports that are going on. Let's start a streaming service with an emphasis on betting. When they brought this proposal to me, now we could still stream on our own, which we were doing. But I thought that added piece that they can bring in the betting line in, especially with sports gambling going legal in March, I thought that potential that we could have some betting was huge. So that betting stuff is theirs. Every Tuesday, which is a fun part, that odds making, it's myself and Andy, and we meet with a professional odds maker, and we discuss the fights and kind of give them our inside analysis. And breakdowns and info on the fighters. So then that professional odds maker goes back, does what he does, and he spits out the odds. That's been kind of cool and fun.
Yeah.
And we have to be very, very transparent in that. Like, we're pretty open. Like, I'll never bet on a fight or anything like that, or like I never talk ill of fighters, but like that's a pretty like raw conversation where it's like, all right, we got to be honest. Like, do I know that this guy's a little hurt? I know something like that. Yeah, because they're professional sports odds maker. Like, there's background checks. There's a committee that the ethics committee. So like we, I can't go in there and just stop bullshitting them. So that's another level, but that's all them. So that stuff is cool. But that portions them. They're the betting guys. But everything else on the other side and the statistics, which was a great ad from the last show. They hire a statistician that watches along live, and they're able to spit out those live punch stats, which we don't have the capability of doing at this. I mean, we could hire somebody to do it, but they have a professional that does it, which we're able to share. So those two things are theirs. For me, I thought they were trying to grow a cool platform, which has a lot to offer that, I thought was just, I want to be different. I'm just going to be like, I don't want to do anything else anybody else is doing. I don't. It's just me. I want to do something that's a little different than everybody else. Not, especially locally, but if we can do something new that no one else is doing, I take great pride in that. And not just following everybody that's going this way. Like, I'm like, okay, cool, you guys are going that way, I'm going to go this way, and then eventually everybody starts coming back to us this way. But hey, by the time they churn and start going the way we're going, we're already churning in another direction and going in a totally other direction. So whatever.
Great, man. Like I said, ranting and raving, watching it. It's great stuff. I'm gonna miss it this time because I will be at this card
Better be
attending.
in person. I told you, your ass better be there, man. I mean, you haven't seen me for a little while.
Yeah,
I'm really busy.
I think the last card I went to, I think it was when Colin fought for the Muay Thai title. I don't know how many that was a whiles back, but
7, 8 months ago, yeah.
yeah, I've been just trying, give, we have a bunch of guys that work with us now and they want to go to the shows. And, I've been at it for a long time. I figured, let the new guys and the people that really do things at the show, like Travis doing his play-by-play, Lars running around. But, I thought it was something different to doing the fight companion from this side. But I'm getting I miss the shows, man. I miss watching them live. I miss the Cage Titans experience, seeing all the guys, the fighters there, because I actually have a lot of friends that are actually fighters that I miss talking
Believe it
to.
or not, people have friends at these things.
Yeah, I know some. I mean, I do have some people that not so friendly there, but they always treat me with respect, whether they, dislike me from this point or love me. They always treat me with respect, and I try to go to Cage Titans and do the same. Return that, and it's just a great show that I will definitely be at the 27th. No questions asked.
There we go. And then, hey, maybe for Cage Titans in July, we can bring back that idea of getting back to that pre-show and doing something cool with that. So yeah, man. I mean, you're amazing to have a part of the MMA community yourself, and the platform you give these fighters. There's you're always interviewing. No one's off limits. You invite everybody and anybody. And just like us with Table Titans, you realize people are like, oh, you only interview the same guys, or it's like it's an open invite.
Yeah.
They just happen to reach out, like. So I would encourage any fighter that's watching, like, listen, man, like, get on one of these podcasts, talk about it. Like, part of this is entertainment, whether you like it or not. Like, the olden days of people, I remember when I first started Cage Titans and when I was fighting, they're like, I'm a fighter. I don't sell tickets. I don't promote. I'm just a fighter. I show up on fight day. It's like, cool, you can do that. But unfortunately, in the world we live in, and as this sport evolves, you're all just as much as you can fight, you need to entertain as well. And kind of do these things. And it's no secret that, I told the story before, like when I went out to the Dana White Contender Series with Richie and Jay Perrin, like the guy pulled me aside and was like, dude, these guys talk on the mic. And I'm like, yeah, man, we make them talk on the mic. Like they commentate, they do this. Like, man, they're really polished. You can tell because like a lot of guys freeze up. And, it's just another aspect. Of what's going on, and it's very helpful. Like just even that media room that you guys have, like that's what you do in the UFC. You get out of the cage, you get checked out by the doctor, you get your check, you go to the media room and you talk, and you're forced to talk. And it's no like, hey, I just got out of the cage, I'm not going there. It's like there's somebody pulling you Like you're going, and that's why we do that type of thing. We're trying to prepare you for that, for everything. And not only that, even if you're not going to go to the UFC, you just fought. Like the mic is yours. Talk. Let the people know what it feels like, and
Yeah.
relish that moment, because it's pretty amazing. And one day you'll look back, and in the moment you might be like, ah, this is corny and no one cares. I'll tell you right now, I wish I had videos of my
Yeah.
fights.
Or
And
videos of you in the back room doing doing interviews and stuff. I mean, you show that to your kids, show that to your grandchildren, show that to like when you're at family parties and stuff. I mean, uh, like you said, you might not be thinking of it at that moment, that you want to do that. It might be, you might feel like, oh, I don't want to do this, but down the line, you're going to look back as you, like you said, you missed some of those opportunities because they didn't have it. But you're going to look back at that, and your kids or grandchildren or family, they're going to be massively proud of you. Cousins that didn't even know you fought, all of a sudden you whip out a video of you knocking someone out and you getting some words in the back room. It's just it'll elevate your life and your mind as a fighter and what you contributed and what you went through to get to that spot.
yeah, for sure. And I'm telling you, like, you might not think it, but somebody's sitting at home going like this, refreshing, 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 because they're waiting to see the results of
Yeah.
your fight, or they're waiting to see your next post about what happened on your fight. So like, it's I think there's some value there, and it's an important thing. And it's just it is what it is. So get out on a podcast, go out and get in front of the camera. I don't care if you're a first time amateur or you're a guy who's on the next level of the UFC. Get your rounds in, enjoy this moment, enjoy this part of the journey, because it is a part of the journey. And it's just gonna expand it, not just your skill sets in the cage or the ring fighting, but all the other aspects of um, you know combat sports from the entertainment factor. But not only that, like just speaking in public. I'm telling you, like, you might not think, oh, I'll never have a job that I speak in public, but you got some people that are very timid. They just get freezed up. It's like this might help break you out of your
Yeah.
shell, and help you not just in the MMA fight world, in just all kinds of aspects of your life. Like, yeah. So
Excellent, my man.
I don't know.
Well, last thing, Mike. I know you're gonna have Table Titans. You're gonna be going over this card, in the next week or so. So we'll leave off with that. But the last thing I want you to do is just give a pitch for this card. I know you said there's no more tickets online. You got to get them from the fighters. You got Spectation Sports that you can buy the stream. Great product there. So last thing you want to say about this card, man, and I'll let you go. We'll talk for a couple of seconds after we end the stream. But anything you want to say about this card, and we'll let the folks,
So when we break down this card, this is so not this Monday, the week of the fight, which I hear that you might be in studio with us. You gonna come up?
yeah, I'll come up this Monday or whatever Monday you want. You just let me know.
Either
We'll
this
talk.
Monday or next.
All right,
Next Monday is so the fight week is when Big Mikey De Silva comes in and he does his predictions, his hot wing, hot take.
Oh, can
That's
I?
always a
I'll
fun-
do a hot wing. I'll do the hot wing hot take with him. I miss Mike. He's telling me to come home right now, so I'll go sit along Mike and eat some hot wings and shit.
I would say fight week Monday. We'd love to have you in studio. We can participate. Maybe we do a little challenge with you and Mikey. That'd be super cool. I'm gonna give you my last pitch, but before I do, I got a question for you. What's your one fight that you got circled that you're like, oh shit, I got to see on this card?
All right. Well, it's not one of the biggest ones, but I am interested definitely in Valdina against Smith, because Valdina is, early in his career, he's stepping up in the talent. Will Smith, a ton of fights, fought for Bellator, fought CES, fought for you guys. That guy is a true veteran, and he's fought a ton of killers. And he's coming off a big win with Cam Arnold, who was on the rise up, just like Valdina. So that is a huge fight for me, because not only implications for both of these guys, but Valdina has a crowd beyond belief in that place. And I just want to feel the atmosphere of when that fight takes off. So I'm definitely more interested in that fight. I'm interested in all of them. There's a lot of fighters that I don't know much about that I want to see, but that fight I'm very intrigued about, and I can't wait to see it.
Yeah, that could, It's funny I'm glad you brought that fight up because like when you talk about battles in the heavyweight title, you talk about that Mitch fight, you talk about Goody and Jack Congdon and D-Sab and Marty Navis. It's like that's a sneaky one that like you might forget that's on the card, and you're like, oh shit, wait a minute, that's like that's a great fight, and just everything you just said, you just did my job. It's such an amazing fight for so many reasons. You got that fast rising star, you got that star killer and Will Smith. Like these guys are gonna clash, and you're gonna see either Baldini can pass this super super difficult task ahead of him and Will Smith, or you're gonna see Will Smith crumbles some undefeated prospect like he just did. And there's a ton at stake, and this is one of those sneaky great ones that like it might get lost in the shuffle, but for those who are in the know, they know. So you're in the know, Steve. My pitch, Cage Titans 59, May 27th. Make sure you follow us on all social media, TikTok, Snapchat, Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, YouTube. Make sure you follow us across all social media platforms. The card is stacked. I hate being that promoter. I keep like a broken record saying it. I hate being a promoter when I hear other guys talk about this is the biggest card yet. And it's like, mother effer, next card you're going to try to tell me that's the biggest card yet. And the next one you're going to tell me that's the biggest card yet. Shout out to AFO Pete DiLorenzo, who's ripped a bunch of fighters off. But when I was fighting, that was his MO. It was like, this is the best fight card. You better be at it. I'm telling you this. I've never said this. This is the biggest fight card I've ever put on. Cage Titans has ever put on. From top to bottom, it is a stacked card that is just bananas. Like, we didn't go into all of them, but it's just like, oh, wait a minute. That fight card's on this? That fight's on this card? That fight's on this card? Wait, shit. That fight's on this card? Wait, that amateur title's on one? It's one of those cards that everyone is super evenly matched. Everyone could go either way. There's so many superstars that are on this card. So many household names. This is honestly the biggest card that Cage Titans has ever put forward to the public. So please, enjoy. And that's it, man. Come on out, man, and hit up your favorite fighter. Get those tickets. And get them soon. Don't wait till the last minute because you're going to be outside looking in. And I don't care if you're my mother asking me for tickets. You're not going to get tickets to this place. Disclaimer, my mom works the door at the fights. Like I tell you, we're family. My mom, my aunts, like they all work the door. But they wouldn't need tickets. But if they did, hypothetically, I'd say no. No way. So get your tickets. Hit Outfighters up early. And just come along for the ride, man. It's going to be amazing. We still got 17 days till fight day. We're gonna have Nick's gonna be dropping a bunch of more amazing content. Yeah, man, it's just enjoy because this is gonna be something special. And this is one of those fight cards that, like, as big as it is today, this might be one that, like, 5 years from now, we'll look back on and be like, holy shit, look at all these guys that were on this one card here locally. So there you go.
Well, there you go, man. Fabulous chat with you, my man. Always a pleasure getting words with you, my man. It's been a while. Can't wait to see you on Table Titans eating some of those hot wings with Mikey over there. I don't eat a ton of hot stuff, but I'll practice up until that night, man. But we'll keep in contact about that. Make sure you tune into Table Titans this coming Monday. I would imagine you probably got a guest or two maybe on.
Yeah, this week we got Brody McDougal and Will Doolin, who are fighting in the Muay Thai world. And then we also have Andrew Jacobs and Joe Lexus. Two great amateur fights. And, so we got those guys on. I think we've had, out of the 16 fights, I think we've had 14 out of the 16 fights on Table Titans, which is another amazing thing. Usually, a lot of fighters are like, I don't want to be on it. Like, we had every pro fight on. We've had the amateur title fights on. Now we're like, these are the last two amateur fights that we haven't had on an episode, with the exception being Steve Hill and Tim Walsh. So we've had almost every fight on, which is great. So yeah, this week's gonna be fun. Will Doolin versus Brody McDougal. They'll both be on, and Andrew Jacobs versus Joe Lexus. which will also be on as well.
Excellent, my man. Well, bro, I could talk to you for another hour about Table Titans, and you moved everything. It looks great in there. But when I'm on the show eating hot wings, I'll talk about that experience and how.
Well, let's do. I'll do you a favor. So Mikey's the hot wing hot take guy. I'll have our kitchen kind of come up with like we'll call it the hot wings for you, but we'll give you a plate that's like mild wings.
Oh, you don't have to do that for me. I'm not skipping anything here. I'll eat whatever the fuck you guys eat on that night. I'm not. I don't.
Hey, you were my inspiration, man. I've been doing Table Titans since 2016, but you were like the first, and we was just like set up a webcam and just do it in the bar. Like you were one of the first on the scene that had their own studio, had their own setup and table and this, and you've been, how many years you been doing this?
Probably, well, from the phone in the corner going live on Facebook, probably about 7 years now. 2015, 2016.
So you've been right along there, and you've always had a studio. Finally, us at Cage Time, 7 years fucking later, we finally decided to take advantage of some extra space we have, and we finally have a studio. We're still tweaking it. I got an old cage mat that we cut up and made it as wallpaper. We got all kinds of cool memorabilia down there. So, I look forward to having you in. And we're going to start a new thing. Everybody who's in studio will get to sign the cage mat wall.
Oh, cool.
So,
cool.
You and Mikey will be the two first guests in studio because next week we're doing Mikey was there today, tweaking the studio a little bit. Next week we're gonna add a couple more tweaks, but then you and Mikey will be the first two guests in studio with the final product. So you guys will have you in studio, we'll have you sign the wall and all that stuff.
Excellent. Make sure there's plenty of milk there. Okay, that's all I have to say. Plenty of milk. With that said, man. Mike, I'll talk to you for a couple of minutes after we end. But tune in, Cage Titans Monday night. And then, go hit one of their fighters up for tickets because they are not online anymore. And, can't make it to the show. Spectation Sports, my guys. All right, Mike, I'll talk to you for a couple of minutes. But people, I'll be back next week. I don't know who my guest is. But we'll probably be talking about these past events coming up this weekend. So with that said, thanks for everyone joining in. Thank you, Mike Polvere, for coming on, man. It's been a while. Love it, as always. And we'll see you very soon, my man.